Okay, so this video is just going to talk about and cover the quizzes for 9.4.3 and then 9.4.4, and it's all about triangle congruences. The first one looks at triangles, just talking about different congruencies. The second one puts some numbers to the sides and to the angles. So when we are talking about congruency, we are talking about four major theorems. Just remember the S's stand for sides and the A's stand for angles. And when we're talking about these, order matters. So either you're going counterclockwise or clockwise, either way, you can go either way, but the order matters, okay? So for this one, side, 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 all three sides are going to be the same. For the next one, we have angle, side, angle. So you're going to have an angle, a side, and an angle. So the side has to be between the two angles. The next one here is angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. So it has to go in that order. Angle, angle, side. It could have gone angle, angle, side. It doesn't, it's different orders, but it has to have the two angles, then the third side. And the last one is side, angle, side. So you have an angle between two congruent sides, okay? There are two other varieties that you might see, and these ones do not prove congruence. So you have angle, 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 and these are not congruent. And then the other one would be side, side, angle. These here, both of these are not congruent. They don't prove a congruence, okay? So if you see either of those, then you know it does not prove that anything is congruent. So now we're just going to go through a couple of the problems that you've been looking at and see how those work in the quiz. So the first one that we're going to look at, we're given two triangles here, and then we're given some information. So we need to figure out if it's congruent and how, okay? So we're told that MN, so this side here, is congruent to PQ, so this side here. So I've just drawn a line there to show that this side is congruent to this side. NO is congruent to QR, so NO is congruent to QR. So these two sides are congruent. And last we have MO is congruent to PR. So MO is congruent to PR. So it's asking if these two triangles are congruent. So we can say we have a side, side, side. So these sides are all congruent here. So is it congruent? So is it one of these? Side, side, angle, or side, side, side? Well, yes, it's congruent because side, side, side shows that it's congruent. Down here is our next one. This time we have angle U is congruent to angle X. Angle V is congruent to angle Y. And angle W is congruent to angle Z. It's asking if does this mean it's congruent? So here we have angle, angle, angle. So does angle, angle, angle mean that something is congruent? So let's look at what it says down here. So we have to decide if it is congruent or if it's not, might not be congruent. So if you remember at the very top here, I said angle, angle, angle is one that does not say it's congruent. So, oops, sorry. We cannot prove that this one is congruent because angle, angle, angle does not prove congruence. So is ABC congruent to DEF? And we're given that angle B is congruent to E. We are given that C is congruent to F. And we're given that BC, so BC, is congruent to EF. Okay, so here we have angle, side, angle. Okay. Are these congruent? Yes, angle side angle is a congruent statement. Oops. So what else would we need to prove that triangle ABC and PQR are congruent by side, side, side? So SSS. So it's given to us that AC is congruent to PR, excuse me, and BC is congruent to QR. What is the last side that we need to know? So we would need to know this side here is congruent to this side here. Okay, so that would be side, side, and whatever this side would be. So that's going to be AB is going to be congruent to PQ. So the one that would match with is here. AB is congruent to PQ. That would be our missing side, since it said it had to be side, side, side. Next one here says, what would we need to be congruent by angle, side, angle? So we know that Z and C are congruent, and we know that CB, so CB is congruent to ZY, ZY. So I have an angle, I have a side, and I need that next angle. Remember, the side has to be between the angles. So the only one that would work is I would need to know that angle B would be congruent to angle Y. Okay, so here I need to look to where that would be. Angle Y is congruent to angle B. This is the only one that would make it angle, side, angle. If we found this one over here, it would be angle, angle, side, and that does not work for this one. It's asking for angle, side, angle. So those are going over a couple that are just for 9.4.3. This next little set is for 9.4.4. So if you notice, the difference here is that we're given some numbers. So what else would we need to know that ABC is congruent to DEF? So right now we have that angle B is congruent to angle E. So this is an angle. We also know that angle C is congruent to angle F. So there's another angle. So we're missing the side. We're missing the side that comes between them. So the only side that goes between those two angles is right here. So we would need to know that BC is congruent to EF. So here would be our missing side congruency. So let's see where that would be. BC and EF. BC and EF, that would be B. The next one here says the triangle shown below must be congruent. Is that true or false? So we know that this is an angle is congruent to this angle. So 45 is congruent to 45. We also know that this is 90, so this is another angle that we have congruent. And we know that both of these are 12. So we can use angle, side, angle to say yes, these are congruent. So angle, side, angle was one of our theorems. If you're not sure about the theorems or don't have them memorized, I would highly suggest going back and writing the ones down that I showed at the beginning. I'll go back to them here at the end one more time so that you can have those written down and know what they are. Oops, this one here says a triangle shown below must be congruent. So we have angle, so 60 angles are congruent, the 90 angles are congruent, and the 30 angles are congruent. But does angle, angle, angle say that it has to be congruent? So if you remember, angle, angle, angle was one of our special ones, and it means that it does not have to be congruent. The last one here that we have that I was going to talk about is what else would we need to show that this is congruent by angle, angle, side. So right now we have that our first angle would be that angle, angle B is congruent to angle E. And we also have a side. We have side BA is congruent to side ED. So we're missing another angle here, okay? So it has to go angle, angle side. So I need to say that C is congruent to F. So angle C would have to be congruent to angle F. So down here, if I looked at my answer options, it would be D. Angle C would have to be congruent to angle F because that's the only way I can get angle, angle, side. Okay. If you have questions, make sure you're reaching out to me. I will put this up at the top one more time. Remember, you can always pause and rewind and rewatch if you need any extra help. Again, I would highly suggest writing these down, taking a picture, doing something so that you remember that these 4 show congruence, these 2 are not congruent. Okay?